Hey, thank you for joining today. We're going to talk about this is the first video of the series. After you've subscribed to the software, now have access. What do you do next? First, I don't think you just run out and go meet with a client right out of the gate. You need to play around with this. We put Summit Tech as a demo client that we have put into the software. Um, it's got a little bit of everything. Is a client perfect? No, it's not a perfect client, but I think you get the idea. Just kind of go through it and play around with it. You see Summit Tech, you see info. What's their phone number? What's their address? Now, why do we want to know business address versus mailing address? Well, these are two different things, right? Where you operate may not be where you get your mail. So we need to know what those are. What's your industry? Technology is good, but let's be a little more specific than technology. Maybe, they're web developers. Let's put that in there. What type of structure are they? They're an LLC and they're an S corp. Could be a C corp. Make sure we get the EIN number right, 99 dash. Very important to get these right. If you do not know their SIC code, you click the SIC code lookup. You go to the website. You go through and there. You find the closest thing that fits their description. But it's important to be as accurate as possible on this. The SIC codes really dictate insurance rates especially in the property and casualty world, workers' comp, all those things. We need to make sure we get these right. What year were they established? How long are they? How long have they been in business? That sounds rhetorical, or maybe even a little bit redundant, but why do you want to know how many years they're in business? You got a brand new companies in the oil field industry, for example, 1 year in business. But the guy that's running the company has been doing this for 40 years. He finally went out on his own. Companies want to see that they have some ability to make payments on insurance. So it's very important. How many employees, annual revenue. We're going to catch this again later, but when I'm talking to the client, I just want to have that conversation. I want them to say how much their annual revenue is. One, I want to see if they're going to embellish a little bit, if they're going to tell the truth. What's your website? We want to know their website. Don't skip this part. If they have a LinkedIn profile for their company, find that as well. Um, we have a scoring program down here at the bottom. So let's give them they don't have the SIC codes and we don't have the EIN numbers. So we made one up. So I'm not going to give them a 10 for this. It's an 8. Well, why is it an 8? Well, we want to get the rest of this information. It's very important. So we'll give it a 10 once we get there. Always hit save and next. Who owns the company? You'll be able to add an owner. If there's another owner, you click owner right here. It's real simple. Hit the edit button and you can go in and you can see the client's information. He's 60% owner, married, been in the industry 18 years, driver's license number. Let's just say since this is our demo client, I don't know, let's make something up. 555 cell phone. There we go. Home address. Why do we want their home address? It's important. Let's get it. Anything we can get here, it's always going to make our life easier in the future. So if you're talking to the client, go ahead and get it. Um, we now go to the second partner. We kind of got the same issues. We're like, man, we need a lot of information. Let's give them a 6. This is important to score these things. Not to, don't say you give them a 0. They give us a lot of information, but give them a 6 for it. We're going to talk about that with the client at some point. Employees, this is pretty cool. We're able to click on the employee. Here's the employee. Here's all their information. We want to get as much of this as possible. Sometimes we can't get this from the actual business owner, but we want to make sure we get it. So we can see that Kyle in the background here was making 148,000 a year. We want to make sure we put that in here as well. That pulled in when we did the CSV import. So we want to go ahead and get those extra numbers in there, make sure they're correct. 105 on Derek, 5,000, then we save it. And we need to go through and kind of do all the rest of these. 20165. We'll do one more here real quick. No 1099, no K1 distribution. Just good to know, right? Sometimes they get bonus money at the end of the year. Just want to make sure. The star means they're a key employee. They check the box. It's going to pull up a star. So very important to know these are very key people. Ask the question. We're going to score to 7. Maybe we're missing some information. So they got 100 employees. You can click the import from CSV, and here's the column order: full name, title, department, salary, is key person, yes or no. That gets us started. That's a census. So who needs a census? Workers' comp, property and casualty. People are going to need it. Your voluntary benefit people are going to need it. Your health insurance people are going to need it. Your retirement plan people are also going to need this. On the work comp, they're going to need to see payroll. Now we're going to see different job titles because they could be rated a little bit different. So make sure you get this information correctly. Tax returns, this is a made-up company, so I do not have fake tax returns made, but they literally are drag and drop, drag and drop, drag and drop, or you can click to upload the tax return. Current year P&L, last year P&L. Why do we want this? If we're January, February, current year P&L, not that big a deal. We want to see end of the year for last year would make more sense. But we do want to see a current balance sheet. This is what's on their books today. And then account receiving aging report. They got a lot of accounts receivable that are out. That could be a big deal. P&L statements, maybe they have not gotten this yet. So we're going to give them a 0. Okay. So then you score it. Make sure you always score this stuff as you go. Now, some of the stuff you're not going to be able to score, and we'll get into that in a minute. Articles of incorporation. I always like to take a look at this. People think they're an S corp, maybe they're a C corp. People think they're a C corp, maybe they're an S corp. If this isn't something you would do every day, you probably don't know off the top of your head. Do they have an operating agreement? We want a copy of the operating agreement. This is very important for conversations that we get to have with the client. Sometimes you're an owner in the company, but the operating agreement says you can be fired tomorrow. And yeah, you're still owner, but you don't get a salary anymore. And now your partners have kind of kicked you out of your own company and forced you into, maybe you got a non-compete. You can't even go work anywhere else and you're kind of stuck. So we want to look at these operating. We want to have the conversations. Do they have a buy-sell agreement? Some people think the buy-sell agreement is an operating agreement. Not the same thing. Well, what's a buyout agreement? Well, maybe you have a partner there in the process of buying out. Maybe they started buying them out a year or two ago. We want to look at this. Maybe we could get them out maybe we can get them out of that debt a little quicker, get the partner bought out faster. Let's just say they don't have any of this stuff, or maybe that's not applicable. So pretty easy to use. So we scored them as we went. If there's any really big issues, we'll put them in right here and put urgency. Okay. Retirement plan documents. We want to upload those documents, very important. If they don't have a retirement plan, you do not put it NA, you put 0, because we want to talk to them about retirement plans. Once we talk to the client about retirement plans, and this is not something they're going to do, then we'll click NA. So we're going to put 0s on these. Very important to do it correctly. Annual revenue. We already talked about this a little bit when we went back to business overview. Annual revenue, $4.2 million. So here's what happens when you put there. Gives us a $4.2 million. Now, what's interesting is you can go back in and do it month by month. I like to do it month by month if we have the information, because then you can see dips in their monthly income. You can say, well, what happened in July? Well, John got sick. John's a very important piece of the company. Well, we need to make sure that doesn't happen again. So great ways to have more conversation, great ways to open up more cross-selling opportunities, and just to have the conversation. Save and next. Now we go into money. What's your money look like? Checking account, 185,000. Is this normal? Comes from revenue, rate of return 0. No, it's not normal. Usually we have 300,000, but we're waiting on this company to pay us, and we got to get paid, and we can't get paid, and whatever the reason is. This guy's the conversation. Well, no, normally we don't have this much money, but we just made a big sale, and now we have more money than usual. So you know that this isn't common, or maybe like I said, they have that extra money, and you get to do something with it. List of properties. You go in and they own a residence, investment property, commercial property, rental property. You're able to list all this stuff here as an industrial. Do the best of your ability. Obviously, if it's not exactly like this, make sure in the notes you highlight, hey, this is a strip mall or whatever, and maybe something that wasn't listed. Vehicles, obviously, it's real simple to add vehicles into this thing. Make, model, trim package. These automatically list in what we call the avalanche method. If someone was going to try to get out of debt rapidly, they want to pay off this one first, this one second, this one third, this one fourth. And it gets them out of debt the fastest way. So just keep in mind that this has that calculation built into it already, which is pretty cool. Can I do the CSV upload yet? Maybe we ought to fix that. Account receivable. I like to look at this. They're owed $620,000. Wow. Hope we get paid on that stuff, right? That could be devastating to a company. Or is it pretty common for this company, and are they factoring it, like selling it off at a discount? If they're selling it off at a discount, maybe there's some strategies that we have to help them out there. Equipment would be same as proper vehicles. It's just a list, and you can add them in there. And finally, inventory. We see a lot of people tie up a lot of money in inventory. And then we kind of score these as we go along too, right? Reserve pillar, or the reserve quadrant. This is disability insurance, life insurance, annuities, key person, buy sell funding, non-qualified deferred comp. They don't have this stuff in place. So we upload the things that they do have in place. Then we're able to go in and say, disability insurance, Marcus has disability insurance, but nobody else does. This is not good. We need to fix this. I'm going to say it's the worst, but it's really not good. Life insurance, they do have some, but only one partner has some life insurance that's owned by the company. This is not good. Key person, all the different things that we need to do. We go in here and score these non-qualified deferred comp. I give it a 0 until we talk to the client. And then if they don't need it, we give them an NA because it allows you to have that conversation. Because we want to talk about how do we improve that score, right? How do we get your score better? Save it next. Now we are on property and casualty insurance. If you are not in the property and casualty space now, I don't recommend you run out and get in the property and casualty space, but you need to work with someone probably on our team that understands what you're trying to accomplish, but also is very accomplished themselves in property and casualty insurance. This is a huge part of planning that no one else is talking about. They're skipping it. They're telling the client to go get an umbrella. So we need to dive into this because look how much the client's spending, $157,000 a year. So if we can go in here and make some strategies to lower premiums, not necessarily lower premiums, but strategies to lower premiums and put capital somewhere that they have liquidity and access to, this could be a huge asset for you and the business to be able to work on. So we go in, we try to let the property and casualty person score all this, right? Because they're going to be the ones that know it frontwards and backwards. Liabilities, this is where you would put bank loans, credit cards, anything like that. It's not an auto, not a vehicle, not a building, but something that's just at the bank. And finally, save it next. What's your exit strategy, right? What's your timeline? What's your preferred exit type? Is there a succession plan in place? Is it heavily dependent on the owner? Business risk profile, average risk, revenues, EBITDA, total assets. Where we're going to get EBITDA? P&L statements, tax returns. We need all these things to get these numbers to make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. Total assets, liabilities. You enter all this information. The valuation date is very cute, very important that we pick today. Today's the date we're doing this, and then we're able to save and done. And we're going to enter all that stuff at another time. So now, as the advisor, you're going to get an email saying it's been completely done. Now, I don't let the client fill this out personally. You can, but I would prefer you not do that at this moment. I would prefer you to do it yourself, and that way you get to have those conversations actually with the client. So now once everything is on the model, now your Foursquare actually gets to populate. So we're going to stop right there on video 1. Video 2 will be the next steps, which is the financial Foursquare and how to walk through it. Thank you.